and welcome to the official CNU Study Abroad podcast, Boarding All Captains. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode with Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Caroline, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you studied abroad?
Sure. So I'm a senior here at Christopher Newport. I study psychology, Spanish, and leadership studies, and I spent the spring semester of my junior year in Seville, Spain.
Great. What was your favorite thing that you did while you were there?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
All of it. I think probably the little day-to-day things, like living with a host family, walking around the city, and really being totally invested and immersed in a new culture.
Yeah, do you feel like living with a host family really helped you work on your Spanish?
Oh, 100%. I always say I thought I knew Spanish before I went to Spain, and I was definitely prepared with some background, but I quickly learned a ton. And my host mom was super great about helping me with that. We would have dinner every day and talk through, she didn't speak English, so we talked through everything in Spanish. Yeah, so it helped me a lot with navigating being in Spain.
Did you like the experience of living with a host family?
Yeah, it was super comforting. I lived with an abuelita, like an older woman, and an American student who I didn't know before, but we became really fast friends. And our host mom, she helped us with knowing how to get to the metro to go to school, knowing some good tapas bars around the city. She would help us with our laundry, cook us meals. She was really sweet.
Oh, yeah, that sounds really nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be independent, but I'm sure you got that taste of independency,
Yes.
and it really helped you with your Spanish.
Absolutely.
So. Tell us about your favorite excursion that you went on when you were within your study abroad country.
Yeah, so I did a couple of programs or excursions with the program that hosted me, and then a couple personal independent excursions. But my favorite one was with my program to Granada, which is a city about a couple hours away from Seville. We rode a bus over there, but you could do train, anything. And there's mountains to hike in. There's a lot of Islamic influence there. So there's this historical monument called the Alhambra, which is like a fortress or a palace. And there are caves that have flamenco shows in them, which are super authentic and really cool.
Tell us more about that show.
Yeah, it was really cool. The flamenco shows are located in little caves in a neighborhood format. So you hike up to them, and typically they have a lot of like pictures on the wall of historic shows. And you sit alongside the edges of the cave and watch the dancers perform. It's very emotional, this style of dance. It's very team-oriented. Typically there's a woman dancing and a man strumming guitar and a couple other ladies like singing backup almost, and they just go off of one another. It's very moving.
What advice would you give someone that's studying abroad to the same destination that you went to?
I think I would say try everything at least once. You know, some foods are going to be different from the foods that you've had before. I tried octopus for the first time.
I saw that picture on the CNU Study Abroad Instagram. Looked delicious.
Yeah, it actually did end up being very good. So try things like that. And even if you go to Spain or anywhere else and you don't know the language, I think it would do you a lot of good to try to learn a little bit of it. I think the local people will be really appreciative of your engagement with their culture, and that'll reflect positively in terms of the experiences that you have.
Yeah, that's really good advice. How did you make friends while you were studying abroad?
Well, that was a fun one. So I went all by myself, and I was a little bit nervous ahead of time, like, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm literally going to a place where I don't know a single soul. But my program did a good job of facilitating some friendship-making activities during our orientation, and then after that I just would talk to the people next to me in my classes and say, hey, can I have like your phone number, something like that, or like what are you doing after school, which you would not see me doing a year before.
Yeah.
But I think when you're put in a situation where it's sort of like, well, everybody's in the same boat, and you know, if I want to make friends, that's up to me to make them, it became a lot easier to just reach out to people. And even when I would hear people speaking English, like when I was out at a bar or walking through town, I would stop and talk to them because I was surrounded by Spanish all the time.
Right.
I was like, oh, a sense of home.
Yeah, I love that. So you would just go up to them, and do you feel like you grew a lot in that way? Are there any other aspects that you really felt like you had some self-growth while you were there?
Yeah, I think I became so much more confident in terms of making friends with my peers, but also with being sure of myself as somebody who could travel independently, who could manage my own affairs. And then also I would say operating in a foreign language almost 24/7 was really a lot more exhausting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience, but it made me feel like even if I was trying, that was good enough. Like,
Yeah.
It's okay to mess up, but you're still doing the best that you can. That's all anyone can ask.
I love that. Oh.
Yeah.
What was your favorite class that you took while you were abroad?
While I was abroad, I took 2 psychology courses, a Spanish class, and an art class. And I think my Spanish class ended up being my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Spanish art history course in Spanish, all about the art history of Sevilla. So we would spend a lot of our class time actually going on field trips around the city to the cathedral or the art museum or even the bullfighting ring, to learn about the history of these places. So it was super engaging and rewarding to learn about where I was staying.
That's so cool. Were your other classes that were not Spanish classes, were they taught in Spanish or were they taught in English?
No, my only class taught in Spanish was that Spanish
Okay.
class, but my other ones were in English. However, you would have the option to pick Spanish or English.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, because I could find it being kind of difficult to learn about psychology in Spanish unless you're really that proficient. And
Right.
I commend you if you are. But yeah, that's so interesting that you really got that immersive experience where you were able to go out and like have kind of those field trips. Was it a lot of time spent in a classroom, or did you kind of get that balance of like your teachers having you like go explore places?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I would say my psychology courses were mostly based in the classroom, whereas my art and Spanish classes, since they both had the art element, were outside of the classroom. But one thing I tried to do, because I did have to commute about 40 minutes outside of the city each day to go to school, is stack my classes on top of one another. So I would have school time and then I could come back to the city to explore. So I found it to be a good balance between school and exploring.
Yeah. How do you feel like you balance that like with your weekend trips or like balancing the actual academic part and being able to travel because, you know, traveling can, you know, take a toll after a little bit.
Certainly, yeah. Well, I definitely, going into it, I didn't want to travel every single weekend. I really wanted to spend a good amount of time in my host city, and I'm glad I did. I think it's the best place on earth. But like I mentioned, I have that longer commute to school, so I would try to utilize that each day. The metro was pretty seamless, so easy to read my assignments and work on them to and from. And then if I couldn't get my work done then, I would try to do it between Monday and Wednesday, usually at the beginning of the week, and look ahead to the following week to make sure I wouldn't come home from a trip Sunday night and have a ton to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. For me, I had a short period of time where I was in the summer, so I was gone every weekend, and
Right.
it was awesome and very culturally enriching, but also it was a little tiring after a while. So it seems
Yes.
like you were able to really structure your semester where you could, you know, have that relaxing time, but also really get out in the city and be able to explore. Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you have a favorite spot in the city where you like to study, or just a favorite spot, restaurant that you would
Yeah.
recommend?
Definitely, I have two. My first is this little like hole-in-the-wall tapas bar called La Bartola. The staff were super friendly. They quickly realized that we were like American study abroad students, and we went all the time after class. So we built a really good relationship with them and just had so much fun. And I think a lot of my friendships were built having meals around those tables. So that was a great spot. And then my other favorite spot is the Maria Luisa Park and the Plaza de España in Sevilla. They're connected in sort of a hub in the city center. There's free flamenco during the weekdays, and on Sundays the whole city pretty much shuts down. So I would love to go to the park with my friends and read, play soccer, do my work, have a picnic, any of the above.
That sounds so nice. Was there a favorite cuisine, like a traditional cuisine that you had? I know you mentioned that you tried octopus,
Yes,
but
I did try octopus. I love all of the Spanish food in tapas. Paella is great. That's more from Valencia, but definitely love that. Otherwise, I love, there's this little tapas called croquetas, and they're like a little, I don't want to explain it wrong, but they're like a little fried ball that can have like ham in it or different types of cheese, any of the above, and they're just like warm and delicious.
ooh, that sounds good. Yeah. When I was in Barcelona and Valencia when I was 17, and I went with a big group of people that I had met from my hostel, and we got like a huge paella. Had you ever tried one of like a big paella or
No, I haven't had one before, and I think you can get one that feeds almost 8 people.
Yeah.
I think
It was huge. It was like this huge pan with like rice, like all this fresh seafood. It was so good.
Yeah.
So, I love paella.
I know.
This
I could eat
makes-
it forever.
Yeah, making me want to go back. Are there any safety measures that you took while you were there, being, you know, a young woman studying abroad kind of by herself?
Yeah, definitely. I have to say I did feel really safe in Sevilla. It's very common in the Spanish culture for families to be kind of existing outside of their homes and in the street well into the night having dinner. So lots of people are typically around. So I never felt unsafe walking home late or anything like that. But definitely, I like to keep all my belongings in front of me, no like phones in the back pocket, anything like that. And I like to travel with a printed out photocopy of my passport in addition to my real passport. So if I locked up my real passport during the day,
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, I had a photocopy on me just in case I never did get into any sort of trouble, but just in case I didn't want to be without it.
Yeah.
But I felt very safe pretty much my entirety of being abroad.
Good. I love that. I'm glad that you were able to, have an amazing experience and really get to explore and also, feel safe. So that's good. Do you have any involvements here on campus? And how is balancing those commitments on campus while you're abroad for a whole semester?
Yeah, pretty much now on campus, I'm involved with the President's Leadership Program and then the Gamma Phi Beta sorority. And on top of that, not an involvement, but just like my social life here.
Yeah.
For all of those, I was a little bit nervous when leaving for a whole semester that I was going to miss out on a ton and that it wouldn't be quite the same when I came back. But I was able to use social media and phone calls, texting, all of that to keep up with my life here while I was away and fit pretty seamlessly back into it. I think having the summer vacation between my semester abroad and my semester at CNU really helped me get back into my American lifestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely felt like in terms of staying involved with those while I was away, I would just read the emails that were sent and try to connect with the people that I cared about, and that was sufficient for me.
Well, I love that you were able to kind of find that balance because I think that's one thing that people worry about when they want to go away for a whole semester, especially if they're involved in Greek life. But I love that you can kind of serve as like a representative of being able to kind of handle both and maintain those connections. So
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for sharing. So as we're starting to wrap up, is there anything else that you really want to share on this podcast or any advice you want to give?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit cliche, but be open to doing anything and trying anything at least once. Before I went abroad, I was definitely a lover of my comfort zone and didn't like to venture out much. But having gone abroad now, I think I crave the growth that comes with being uncomfortable. So definitely embrace it. Sounds silly, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It is hard to be uncomfortable and go out of that comfort zone, but that's one thing I found studying abroad also is really helps you push to be more independent and, make friends. So, yeah. As we know, you're a senior, and what are your plans for after graduation, and how did studying abroad help you get there?
Actually, study abroad helped me with everything post-grad. I loved it so much. I've decided to move back to Spain permanently, well, for at least a year. I'm going to be teaching English through a program called CIEE, and I'll be based in Madrid, and the study abroad office actually helped me find this program and go through the interview process, so I couldn't be more grateful.
Wow, I love that. I'm so happy that we were able to help you, when you returned from your study abroad. And then, so you're going to be teaching. That's
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Have you already found housing for that? Or
Not quite.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a scramble. I think I'll wait until I get there to see what the housing opportunities are like, but I'm looking for roommates right now on Facebook pages. So.
Well, I'm so glad that, studying abroad, kind of helped your trajectory with, that post-grad first job. So thank you so much for coming on our podcast, Boarding All Captains. And we at the office are so excited to see what you do in Madrid next year.
Thank you guys for having me.